In today's show, Trump and Putin are planning a peace summit, REI is closing some major stores, and I'll tell you which states are booming while others are emptying out. Plus, President Trump unveils plans for a massive new monument he's calling the Arc de Trump. The U.S. revokes visas from foreigners who mocked Charlie Kirk's death, and we'll take a fun look at last names that might actually have royal roots. And here's today's trivia question. Which national park is home to the Going to the Sun Road? It's Friday, October 17th. This is the Flyover Podcast. Welcome to the Flyover Podcast, taking you above the noise for an unbiased, high-altitude view of today's headlines with daily coverage that's honest and refreshing. Let's cruise the news and land the facts. Hello and welcome back to the Flyover Podcast. I'm your weekday host, Ayla Brown. Happy Friday! The coffee's hot, the weekend is in sight, and we've got a great show lined up to get you there. Let's take off with today's biggest headlines. President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed to meet in Budapest, Hungary, to talk about ending the war in Ukraine, a major diplomatic development following a long phone call between the two leaders. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will lead a U.S. delegation to meet with Russian officials next week ahead of that summit. The date hasn't been announced yet, but it's expected to follow Trump's meeting today at the White House with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. The U.S. is also debating whether to send long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, something Russia has strongly criticized. Trump says great progress was made in his call with Putin, but that progress remains to be seen. The outdoor retail world is going through a big shakeup as legacy brands like REI and Orvis close stores and restructure their operations. Both companies are blaming overexpansion, tariffs, and changing consumer habits. REI plans to shut down its flagship Soho store in New York, as well as locations in Boston and New Jersey by late 2026. Orvis is going even further, closing 36 stores, which is nearly half of its U.S. locations. The companies say pandemic-era growth has fizzled out, foot traffic is down, and younger customers are swapping solo outdoor adventures for social fitness activities like running clubs, pickleball, and obstacle races. And a new population report shows America's growth is shifting south and west between now and 2050. Texas is projected to add the most people overall, about 8.6 million new residents, while Utah is expected to grow the fastest by percentage, with a 35% population increase over the next 25 years. Overall, the U.S. population is expected to grow by about 9%, or 32 million people, but not every state is gaining. 18 states are projected to lose population, led by West Virginia, which could see a 15% decline. The trend continues to show people leaving the Midwest and Northeast for warmer, lower-cost states in the South and West. See the trends through the link in the show notes below. In politics, former White House National Security Advisor John Bolton has been indicted by a federal grand jury in Maryland on 18 counts tied to the mishandling of classified materials. The charges reportedly stem from documents and notes taken after his time in the Trump administration, which prosecutors say contained sensitive national security information. Senate Democrats on Thursday blocked the annual defense appropriations bill, even though it had strong bipartisan support in committee. The bill needed 60 votes to move forward, but failed in a 50-44 vote, adding to the gridlock in Washington as the government shutdown continues. In Texas, 2 alleged Antifa members have been indicted on terrorism charges for a July 4th attack on an ICE facility, marking the first time federal terror charges have been brought against Antifa members. Prosecutors say the suspects used explosives and targeted federal property, while defense lawyers argue the charges are politically motivated. And President Trump confirmed he authorized a CIA operation inside Venezuela, saying the move was necessary to fight drug trafficking and illegal migration. He described the mission as a, quote, vital national security effort aimed at dismantling cartels before they reach the U.S. border. Here's some podcast extra stories just for our listeners. At a White House dinner for major donors, President Trump unveiled a model for what he's calling the Independence Arch, a monument resembling Paris's Arc de Triomphe that he informally referred to as the Arc de Trump. The structure would sit on the Abington, Virginia side of the Memorial Bridge between Arlington National Cemetery and the Lincoln Memorial, and is slated to be completed in time for the nation's 250th anniversary next year. Trump described the project as, quote, really beautiful, and said he preferred the largest version of the design. Next, the U.S. government has revoked the visas of at least 6 foreign nationals who made celebratory or mocking comments online about the killing of conservative and Christian activist Charlie Kirk. The State Department said the U.S., quote, has no obligation to host foreigners who wish death on Americans. Those affected reportedly come from countries including Argentina, Brazil, South Africa, and Germany. One South African businessman confirmed his visa was canceled after posting that Kirk, quote, won't be remembered as a hero. If you're a subscriber to the Arizona Flyover email edition, you'll find more details about this story in your email today. And ever wonder if your last name has royal roots? An article rounded up surnames with historical ties to monarchs across Europe and beyond. Names like Windsor, Stuart, Tudor, and Plantagenet top the list, each carrying centuries of royal intrigue. The piece also highlights European dynasties like Habsburg, Bourbon, Capet, and Savoy, whose family trees once stretched across continents. Closer to home, names such as Bruce, Sinclair, and Campbell nod to Scotland's noble past, while Kennedy and O'Brien trace back to ancient Irish royalty. I've linked the article in today's show notes to see if you potentially come from royalty. And this is just for fun, by the way. Do not come to me saying, Ayla Brown said I was royal. No. You're going to have to find your own family tree on your own. Still to come, NBC's trimming staff ahead of its big network split. Scientists invent gum that can taste the flu. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker wins $1.4 million playing blackjack. I'll tell you what he did with the winnings coming up. But first, thanks to our sponsor, Native Path Collagen, made with only type 1 and 3 collagen, the 2 types that make up about 90% of the collagen in your body. It supports your skin, your hair, your nails, joints, and gut without those unnecessary fillers. It's a single ingredient formula, third-party tested for purity, and completely flavorless. So be my guest. Mix it into anything you want, from coffee to smoothies, soups, you name it. Native Path offers amazing bundle deals, and with this special link, you can grab 3 or 6 packs, do the 6 packs, at a fraction of the price of other brands. Over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee. Go to getnativepathcollagen.com/flyover to get yours today, or click the link to purchase in today's show notes. In finance, Nestle says it's cutting 16,000 jobs over the next 2 years as it shifts toward more automation. And investors seem to like the move. The company's stock jumped more than 9% on the news, part of what Nestle calls a broader efficiency effort to modernize operations and reduce costs globally. NBC News is preparing for its official split from MSNBC, and as part of that transition, the network is laying off more than 100 employees in its news division. Staffers are being called into meetings this week to find out whether their positions are affected. And J.M. Smucker, the maker of Uncrustables, is taking Trader Joe's to court, claiming the grocery chain's crustless PB&J sandwiches violate its trademark. Smucker says it's spent decades perfecting and protecting the Uncrustables brand, while Trader Joe's argues its version is different enough to stand on its own. Markets closed lower across the board on Thursday, with the Dow slipping 0.65%, the S&P 500 down 0.63%, and the Nasdaq falling 0.47%. Bitcoin also dipped more than 2.5%, landing just below 108,000, while gold surged 3.6% to over $4,300 an ounce. The big story of the day was Praxis Precision Medicines, whose stock skyrocketed 183% after reporting successful trial results for a new drug aimed at treating essential tremor, a condition that causes uncontrollable shaking, most often in the hands. In sports, Australian swimming champion Ariane Titmus is hanging up her goggles at just 25 years old. The news stunned fans around the world, especially since she was still at the top of her game, winning multiple medals at the Paris Olympics just last year. FIFA confirmed that the U.S. government will have the final word on whether certain cities are deemed unsafe to host matches during the 2026 World Cup. The clarification comes after President Trump questioned Boston's readiness to host games earlier this week, sparking debate about safety and infrastructure across several host cities. WNBA star Caitlin Clark is set to swap the basketball court for the golf course next month. She'll be playing in the LPGA's The Annika Pro-Am tournament in November, her second appearance at the event, through her ongoing partnership with main sponsor Gainbridge Insurance. And here's a fun one from the Vatican. When a Chicago Cubs fan yelled, "Go Cubs!" to Pope Leo XIV, he shot back and he said, "They lost!" The Pope, who's originally from Chicago, later admitted he's actually a White Sox fan. In science and tech, scientists have created a new kind of chewing gum that can actually detect the flu. The gum contains a molecular sensor that reacts to flu virus particles in your saliva. When it detects the virus, it releases thymol, giving off a strong, thyme-like taste. So if your gum suddenly tastes like an herb garden, that might be your cue to head home and rest up. I actually find that pretty fascinating. Next, a new study found that the number of college students identifying as transgender has dropped by nearly half since its peak in 2023. Researchers say this shift may reflect changing cultural and social dynamics, particularly at elite universities, where identity-based trends often shift the fastest. It's Friday, so here are some extra stories to leave you with today. The family of Oscar-winning actress Diane Keaton has confirmed that she passed away from pneumonia. They thanked fans around the world for their love and outpouring of support, calling the messages a great comfort during this difficult time. Also, according to reports, she left a $5 million trust for her golden retriever, Reggie. This trust is intended to provide for the dog's care, and a portion of the funds will also go to animal charities in her name. Would you leave that kind of money to your pet? The comments section is always open. And in Hollywood news, Warner Brothers is reportedly in talks with Jim Carrey to star as George Jetson in a live-action remake of The Jetsons. The project is still in early stages, but if it moves forward, Carrey could be bringing his signature energy to the futuristic family sitcom. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is making headlines for an unexpected reason: his blackjack skills. The billionaire Democrat reportedly won $1.4 million during a trip to Las Vegas last year, according to his newly released 2024 tax filings. Pritzker said he plans to donate all of his winnings to charity. And in Florida, shout out to our Florida Flyover readers, a mini cow named Jason Momoa was spotted cruising through Pinellas County on a boat wearing a life vest. The 380-pound cow, even hopped off at a sandbar before being lifted back on board. Just another day in the Sunshine State, and we've linked that story in today's show notes. It's funny. We've gotten to the poll question, so here's the results from yesterday's. Have you ever lived outside the U.S.? 41% said no, 24% said yes, 9% said living abroad now, and 26% said Maybe someday. Shout out to all of you who are living abroad and either listening to the Flyover podcast or who are subscribed to the Flyover email edition. I'm glad that we can provide a little taste of home for you while you're away. Thank you to everyone who voted. Here's today's poll question. What do you listen to in the car? Music, talk radio, podcasts, audiobooks, sports, or nothing? My answer is podcasts lately. A few years ago, I would have said radio and music. But these days I'm listening to podcasts. And that better be the answer for you too. It should be if you're listening to the Flyover podcast right now. Amy Hess will read the answers in tomorrow's show. Just click the link to vote in the show notes. In today's trivia question, which national park is home to the Going to the Sun Road? The answer, the Going to the Sun Road is a 50-mile scenic route in Glacier National Park, Montana, crossing the Continental Divide at Logan Pass. Along the way, you'll see glaciers, valleys, waterfalls, mountains, and wildflowers, as well as opportunities for wildlife sightings. Have you ever been there? Is it beautiful? I've never been to Montana. That's one of the 8 states that I have never been to, but I hope to someday. And that is your Friday Flyover. Thanks for hanging out with me this week. Have a great weekend, and I will see you bright and early on Monday. Amy Hess will take you through the weekend, and later today, check out her Feel Good Flyover for all things good news. Until then, thanks for flying with us.